2025 is a huge year for Spider-Man fans. I say this because our favorite web-slinger is back on our screen with a new animated series that just dropped. And let's be real, we are all excited about it. What makes this animated show different from every other classic Spider-Man show we've seen so far? What about the characters and the storyline? Well, if you're curious, Marvelous Videos got you. Join us as we break down everything you need to know about the first episode of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Expect the unexpected when you tune in. The first 2 episodes of this show dropped, and oh boy, let me tell you, Disney Plus has been cooking with this show. They ate it all up and left no crumbs to complain about. The iconic web-slinger returns to our screen, revealing a new alternate timeline for our Peter Parker and his journey to become the hero. The art style and the plot are both unique to this new show. The origin story of Peter Parker is very closely tied to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but at the same time, just distinct enough to feel fresh and bring new perspectives to the table.
Gotcha! Somebody get that license plate number!
Amazing fantasy. Is it truly as amazing as it might seem? The show begins with our lovely Peter being late for his first day at Midtown High. Yes sir, it's the same Midtown High that Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes to with his best friends Ned Leeds and MJ. However, as you know, in the usual fashion, the first day of high school can never go normally for our boy Peter. After struggling to make it out of the house on time, Peter catches a ride with Aunt May to go to school. While he's frankly gawking and fanboying over the building, a mysterious green portal opens up in the sky, and out of that portal comes a very familiar yet unique alien symbiote, closely followed by none other than Dr. Strange. Dr. Strange tries to keep the alien at bay, quickly realizing that they're not supposed to be there. But when has that ever gone according to plan? So, sure enough, Midtown High gets destroyed by the alien symbiote, chucking a truck at the high school. While Dr. Strange is recovering from the roughhousing, the alien focuses on another freshman in the school. Peter, being the hero that he is, refuses to sit by and watch, so he chucks whatever he finds in front of his hands to distract the alien symbiote toward him. Luckily, before he became the alien symbiote's breakfast, Dr. Strange managed to put the alien in binds and drag it back to wherever it came from. However, in the midst of the kerfuffle, an itty-bitty tiny thing gets forgotten. That's right, folks. The spider that bites Peter Parker and turns him into Spider-Man? Well, this time the spider comes from a whole new dimension. The spider bites Peter while he's speaking with the girl he just saved, and he passes out. Then we get a quick jump cut to 3 months into the future. While I personally love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's whole montage of figuring out his powers, I'm glad this show decided to skip that part and land us directly in the middle of Peter's hero journey, after he's figured out his powers. As you can guess, Peter is still just a kid, struggling to figure out how to maintain his normal high school life with the usual trials and tribulations of a teenager, while also having his hero persona as a side gig. Now a student of Rockford T. Bales High, Peter is seen with the girl he saved, his now best friend, Nico Minoru. On top of that, Peter's crush, come ex-babysitter Pearl Pangan, also goes to the same high school. Ah, young love. We all know how it goes. Peter struggles to figure out how to tell Pearl that he likes her, with Nico egging him on, only to find out that Pearl is already dating the football captain, Lonnie Lincoln. In the midst of everything, Peter still tries to hold up his sense of justice and help people out, even if it means he'll be late for school. While on his way to school, Peter sees someone getting bullied and pulls up to help the young man out. This young man is none other than Harry Osborn, and what do you know? The entire fight was live-streamed, gaining Spidey quite a bit of attention. Sometime later, we see Peter excusing himself out of the class to save the day yet again. However, this particular incident might seem familiar to you guys, as this chase scene is very reminiscent of the one that got Tony's attention in the MCU. That's right guys, we get yet another iteration of Spidey saving a bus full of people from getting crushed by a stolen truck. After returning to school that day, Peter's day gets a little worse. He ends up getting paired with Lonnie for a science class. Up till now, like most teens, Peter hated that Lonnie ended up with Pearl when he was just as good a candidate. However, working on the project together with Lonnie changes Peter's perspective about him. He realizes that Lonnie is not that bad after all, and for the first time in forever, we get to see Peter having a significantly better social life in his high school. He's no longer an outcast who gets bullied. Instead, this time he actually ends up getting friends. Isn't that the best? After school, Peter and Lonnie meet on the crosswalk, and after bidding each other farewell for the night, they go their separate ways. We get to see a sneak peek into Lonnie's life, which is definitely gut-wrenching, to say the least. He's a young African-American lad living in Harlem. He gets racially profiled on the train while on his way home to what seems to be a rather shady part of town. From whatever conversation we see him having with his parents, it's evident that he's not from a well-to-do family. They're not financially well off at all. This is important, so keep that in mind as we circle back to it in a few minutes. Coming back to our boy Peter, after he's caught the thief who stole money from a pizza restaurant, Peter is on his way back home with his free pizza. On his way, he finds a perfectly functioning DVD player in the dumpster, which he decides to take home with him. Just before entering his apartment, Peter notices this super cool car parked outside his house and decides to grab a selfie with it. He comes upstairs, and as he's rambling on about his day to Aunt May, he notices they aren't alone. Mirroring the way Tony showed up in Peter's house, this animated series shows Norman Osborn in Peter's house, the CEO of Oscorp Industries, the one and only Green Goblin. Ending on such a smashing note, the showrunners definitely had us begging for more, because whoa, so many things are happening at the same time. Let's go through them one by one, shall we?
Hello, Peter. It's nice to meet you. My name is Norman Osborn.
Norman Osborn's influence on Spider-Man's life. We always think of Norman Osborn as the bad guy because, well, he is the bad guy. However, maybe this time he won't be. But then again, he is Norman Osborn. While the opportunities he presents to Peter are significant and important for his career, they don't change the fact that chances are this will end up becoming a huge mess. Norman is inherently an insidious character, and back-to-back Academy Award nominee Coleman Domingo pulls it off so well. There's a paternal warmth in his tone as he speaks with Peter, along with the charm of a businessman. However, we know that this partnership will be deliciously devilish, and I can't wait to see the chemistry between Hudson Thomas Peter and Norman Osborn.
You saved me twice. First my life, then my face. Thank you, dude.
Oh yeah, totally.
The social commentary present in the show. I have to bring this up, guys. There's no way you can watch the first episode and not see this thing head on. So obviously, as we saw in the case of Invincible, we're getting a much more diverse cast. However, I think your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man does it all right. We see Lonnie Lincoln, the resident of Harlem, the star quarterback of Rockford T. Bales High, and Parallel. We see Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn, traditionally white characters, now African American. The way the showrunners have captured Lonnie and his hardships, along with the Osborns, is truly noteworthy. As Uncle Ben has said, with great power comes great responsibility. As a showrunner for any type of show, it's your responsibility to put social commentary in a palatable way that makes it easier for people unfamiliar with these to understand the situation. Jeff Trammell, the mastermind behind this show, has definitely gone all out. Lonnie's story feels a lot more grounded in reality and depicts the real-life issues and horrors faced by black men all over the world. Whereas, we know for a fact that the Osborns would never face the same discrimination or hatred because of their high social status and wealth. Every comic book fan knows how Lonnie Lincoln's life spirals out of control, which I'm pretty sure we'll get to see in this show too, which is why his lovely friendship with Peter, which we see blossoming from the very first episode, is going to be the most gut-wrenching thing to witness. In a way, I believe that Lonnie is the one facing the hard life that we usually see Peter going through in every iteration of Spider-Man. That means, in this show, Lonnie too has great responsibilities that he needs to show up for. The only question that remains is how he manages to deal with them, and the temptation of power when it presents itself to him. While the show isn't inherently focused on discrimination faced by diverse groups of people, populating the same universe, as we saw in Avatar: The Last Airbender, I do believe this show can end up being a bit weightier than the lighthearted superhero-punching supervillain fest that we were expecting if the writers choose to take it that direction.
Petey's always been a bit clumsy.
You know me, clumsy, Petey, Parky.
Interesting ragtag team of characters. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting Nico Minoru from Runaways to show up here. I suppose she did manage to run away and find her place in the multiverse. Bad jokes aside, I'm very happy to see such a bright and interesting character in the mix. Nico brings the general sassiness of a sarcastic young teen on the plate, with the emotional maturity of one, which I'm sure is going to bring some new changes in Peter's life. At the same time, I'm not saying that Ned or Harry aren't a good fit for Peter, because they are, but I think I'll be a bit partial to Nico Minoru as Peter's best friend. Something about her just hits different, you know? She's funny, she's absolutely snarky, which I love so much, and her friendship with Peter feels very reminiscent of my friendships from school days. We've already discussed Lonnie, the star quarterback, who's surprisingly very keen about science and is a sweetheart to Peter. He's so warm and welcoming to him, which really worries me as we can kinda guess how Lonnie's character arc is gonna go. Pearl Penguin, who I assume will be Peter's love interest in this universe, is so far rather supportive and sweet. I can see why he likes her as much as he does. I mean, sure, there's a little childhood infatuation mixed into the whole thing, as I think Pearl is Peter's first female companion who's not a family member. But hey, that's never hurt anyone. While I do enjoy me some Mary Jane Watson and Gwen Stacy, I'm very interested in seeing how Pearl compares to Spidey's Boo. We do get introduced to Harry Osborn in the first episode, and I gotta tell you, he's nothing like James Franco's Harry Osborn. This Harry is a rich, outgoing, super naive, and completely out of touch teenager. I believe that because of his father, Harry is somewhat of a social media sensation, which is why he was getting bullied, mugged. With Norman Osborn showing up at Peter's house, I believe Peter and Harry will be meeting frequently, and I'd love to see how Norman Osborn treats Peter once he finds out that this young teenager is the one who saved his son. We of course have Aunt May in the mix, and no Uncle Ben as usual. Aunt May is lovely, supportive, and quite frankly, the sweetest person really. Her character, I would say, remained pretty unchanged throughout all the iterations of Spidey, and I love that. She's perfect, and you don't fix something that isn't broken, alright?
There we go again. Swinging through the city so fast you can barely notice it.
Special fanboy moment. The art style. Okay, look, I love the animated series that Marvel has produced over the years a lot. Sometimes I prefer them more than the movie adaptations, but I gotta tell you, this show has raised the bar up so high. The 3D cel-shaded animation somehow manages to capture the 2D hand-drawn feel of the comic book so accurately. At some points, I'm sure you'll feel like Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr.'s art just came to life. This adds a sense of familiarity to the show, which I'm sure you guys will appreciate. Sometimes, in the middle of the episode, you get a little comic book paneling structure, which feels like such a good nod to the source material. Also, can I just say that I love the physical comedy of the show? Because I do! This Peter Parker is so clumsy, and I love it. The art style really pulls that comedy to the forefront, and I appreciate that so much. The action scenes are slick and long sequences of swinging and acrobatics, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Some of the maneuvers that our Spidey does looks a bit too advanced for someone who has been actively heroing his way around town for 3 months. But oh well, that doesn't hamper the entertainment of the show at all.
I can't believe that worked. Oh, okay.
Marvelous verdict. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is a must-watch. It's the right balance of lighthearted comedy and superhero story that we wanted, along with the slight tension of the heavy-handed topics that I've mentioned. I'm extremely hyped about the tension-filled pairing between Norman and Peter, and I genuinely can't wait to see how it works out. The addition of the spider coming from a different portal instead of being from a science lab was definitely not something I was expecting, but that makes me curious how the magical aspect of this Spidey's powers would come into play. The real-life problems in the show are a great addition in my opinion, as they ground the show in reality while making it feel authentic. The animation style might seem a little quirky for some of you, but overall, I think it just adds to the charm. I didn't know Spider-Man could be made better, but here we are. Let us know in the comments if you guys like the show just as much, and what your opinions are about the new characters, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye! If you like our content, like it and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!